What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. So we're in the new house, but I have not yet set up my new YouTube room. I don't know when I'll get around to that because I've been kind of chilling at the moment, giving my back a little bit of a rest because moving was a little bit taxing for it. As you guys know, I do have lumbar, that's lower back issues, so I've got to be a little bit careful at the moment as I'm still in recovery mode. And yes, there is Elmo. Right there, a bunch of you asked, because in my last vlog, Elmo didn't appear, what happened to Elmo? So Elmo is sitting there in the corner of the room, lone and sad. Now, I was actually thinking, kind of crazy like, okay, for my YouTube room, that I might set up like a giant fucking golden chair, put Elmo on it, and then have like this shitty little plastic, you know, like a garden chair that I would sit on and do my YouTubing. That way, whenever someone new ended up on the channel, they would be like, what's going on here? This is like Game of Thrones with fucking Elmo sitting in the high chair and the YouTubers in like the low chair under Elmo's gaze or something. I thought that'd be fucking funny. And I might end up actually doing that, but I still got some more ideas I'm playing with. Anyway, so let's get back to the actual topic of this video. So the topic of today's video is my interesting experiences with the local health system here. Now, I'm going to talk a bit about this a little bit, and I'll have to clarify because I know a bunch of you are not Australians. So I wanted to explain this because there is a lot of, I guess, misconceptions about how the Australian health system works. Okay, everyone thinks we've got universal medical cover here in Australia. That's kind of true, but also kind of not. Okay, so the way it works is that everyone who has a job, 2% of their income goes towards something called the Medicare levy, which is basically towards the health system, okay? Now, for someone like me who makes a lot of money, that is a lot of money that goes to that system, but if you don't have a job, then you basically don't pay anything, but you're still covered, okay? As long as you get a Medicare card, which you can apply for, it's basically free. So, you get this card, and then you go to the doctors, and they will charge against that, okay? And that goes towards the government pays them. That's how it works behind the scenes. However, we're in an interesting situation now where basically the cost for doctor visits has gone up to the point where it's crossed a threshold that no longer the government can pay. For whatever reason. I don't know how fucking things are managed. I don't know how they like negotiate with doctors or whatnot, but there's a lot of instances now where you will go there and you will have to pay a gap fee for different types of things. Now, for a general visit, you don't have to, but let's say you want to get an MRI like I did, you end up paying quite a bit out of pocket. Yeah, several $100s, okay. But still, a large amount of that is covered by the Medicare levy type of thing, or the Medicare system. So it's not like universal medical cover overall, although if you are in an emergency and like, you know, you got like life-threatening like problem, they will just straight up cover that and you'll get, you know, the cover that you need. But it gets a little bit more painful when it's just like day-to-day issues because you can end up waiting for a doctor an entire day just to see them to get a certificate to say, you know, you can't be at work type of thing, because that's one thing in Australia. If you can't go to work because you're sick, you need to get a certificate. And then you can wait an entire day at a GP just to get a certificate to say you can't be at work that day. So it's kind of stupid. But anyway, now, I want to talk about my lumbar issues and the experiences I've had here. So I had to go get an MRI, again, in Australia because they wouldn't accept my Chinese ones, which meant I had to pay quite a bit of money out of pocket. Now, I got that, then I went to the GP, and here's the thing, okay? The GPs here, the ones I've been to, I don't know if this is like universal, but they don't put any effort in. They will look at the MRI and they will read it word for word to you. Now, mind you guys, I paid for this. So I went there, I paid for it, I got a copy. And then I give it to the GP and the GP picks up and reads it to me word for word. That's what he does. Now, if I ask him anything, he'll just say things like, well, it looks like you just got to probably maybe lose some weight or something like that, you know, that's all I can really advise you. And I'm like, I'm literally in pain now and I have been for like a month. Is there anything else I can do? And he'll be like, okay, well, I'll give you a referral to see a specialist. And then you'll contact a specialist and you have to wait 3 weeks to see them. So like you'll suffer for 3 weeks or whatever. And that's basically what happened with me. So I got a referral to see a specialist. Now, I had the MRI results. So I knew exactly what the issue was. It was written out there in plain doctorese, okay? So what I did is I passed that into ChatGPT and I learned everything that I could about that from the MRI and conversing with ChatGPT. Now, obviously, I confirmed what it was teaching me, and everything was 100% on point. It was giving me the advice that I would need and all this type of stuff. It was telling me exactly what all these different words and like Latin words and everything meant and how this worked together. And I ended up learning a lot about how the spine works. So basically the issue for me is that I have a bulge that exists in the L5-S1, which is the lowest disc connecting to your sacrum, which is basically your it's the bone where you've got like it's your fucking butt bone, okay? It's called sanctum, okay, or whatever it's called. So it's connected to that one. And the issue is that I have a posterior is the word I was looking for. I have a posterior bulge to the right, okay? And what's happening is that's pushing against the nerve ever so slightly, but it's not all the time. It's when it gets flared up just a little bit, it pushes against the nerve, and then I get shooting pain down my right leg. Now, I'd already spoken with ChatGPT about its recommendations, and this is what ChatGPT recommended, okay? It said, okay, so based on your height, age, and weight, you need to lose a lot of weight, and that will reduce stress on your lumbar region, okay? And therefore, you're going to have a less likely chance of basically this flaring up and hitting on your nerve. That was the first thing it said. The second thing it said is I need to work on my core strength, and specifically it told me certain muscles along the back that I also need to work on. So it gave me all these things, and it told me like certain exercises I should do, and I went and looked them up and looked videos on how to do that. And that's what I basically did while waiting 3 weeks to see a specialist. Now, finally, the date of the specialist rocked up, okay? So I knew everything about, you know, how the discs work and everything by this point. I'd learnt about, you know, that we've got the nucleus pulposus, which is basically the inner gel of the disc, which is surrounded by the annulus fibrosus, which is the harder outer part of the disc. And, you know, I also learned from the MRI that I have a little bit of bone hypoplasia, which is basically like a little bit of extended bone growth, which is kind of like random, but this is due to disc degeneration, which is basically the disc is, it's collapsed, it's lost its, a little bit of its water, and it's become dehydrated. So I learned everything that I could, okay? And I'm basically pretty good at talking about this one little specific spot of my body. So when I rocked up to the specialist, I was ready to go. I wanted to know exactly what I had to do from someone who'd been working in this industry for about 30 years, according to his website. So we rocked up, and then of course I had to pay a fee, straight out of pocket. It was like 250 Australian dollars, consultation fee. That's not covered by Medicare. I think, actually, no, that's a lie. Part of that's covered by Medicare. A small part, not much though. Anyway, so I went in and I was ready. I sat down and my wife was there because she's actually more stressed about this whole situation than I am. I'm an optimist, so I kind of look at things like, okay, I see this, yeah, it sucks, I got an issue with my spine, but I see this as a positive. This is going to set me on a correct path to losing weight. And I have been doing that. I've actually gone from like 83.3 down to, the last I checked was 79.9, but I haven't checked in 2 days because my scale's packed away. Anyway, so I've been losing weight. I'm using this as kind of like a rallying call to like push me forward to, you know, head on this new path to become buff deer or something like that. So I'm not so worried about this. Yeah, it's a problem. It's a health issue, something I need to deal with the long term, but I see as a positive because it is pushing me in the right direction and it's going to help with everything else in my body. But my wife is a little bit of a, I wouldn't say pessimist, but she's easily concerned about these things. So she wanted to come, she wanted to hear. She was pushing me for the specialist more than anything. And so I basically did this partially for her to like kind of, you know, settle her nerves down. So we went there. I was a bit in pain at the time, but it settled down now because this would be in about a month and 1 week by the time I saw the specialist since the reoccurrence of the injury. And right now I'm at the stage where I can walk around pretty happily, but there's still a little bit of pain every now and then. And this is kind of something I've expected, is that like once a year I get hit pretty bad by this. So I sat down with the specialist and he's like, okay, so tell me what's wrong. So I was ready to start basically handing him the MRI and telling him the details. And he's like, no, don't talk like that. Just tell me, where does it hurt? And I was like, okay, well, my lower back, obviously. And he's like, okay, where specifically? And I'm like, well, here. And he's like, okay. And he starts taking notes. And then he's like, okay, so what I'm going to get you to do is lay down on this bed. You tell me if this hurts and this hurts. And he's just like lifting up my leg and stuff like this. And I'm like, yeah, that hurts. No, that doesn't hurt. You know, that type of stuff. And then I don't know if this is like some type of new doctor philosophy where they want to like make the patient more comfortable or something. But he segues and starts talking about random shit. So he starts talking about, you know, the local Chinese food here. And he's asking my wife for recommendations. And we end up in like a 30-minute discussion regarding, you know, the best Chinese restaurants in our local area. And I'm the type of person where I like to optimize shit. And I feel like, yeah, I get it. Some people probably feel a lot more comfortable, you know, having this kind of like personal connection with their doctor. But me, no, I want to know what the problem is so I can work on it. That's what I'm here for. Don't waste my time. Don't waste your time, okay? Like, my goal is to never see you again. That's my goal here, okay? Like, that's what my thinking is. But I'm guessing this is some type of new, like, method for doctors where they really want to personalize the situation. So, like, we were sitting there, and I legit think it was about 30 minutes talking about, like, Chinese food and shit like this and his travels to China. And I'm just sitting here going, My wife is doing most of the talking. I'm just like, I felt like saying at one point, can we get back to the problem right now? Because that's what I'm here for, and I'm still got the pain in my leg. Anyway, we finally do get back to the problem. So he turns to his computer, and he has the MRIs as well, because I have emailed him through. He like scrolls through the different levels of them, and he's like, yep, okay. So he tells me, I've got the problem, the S5, the L5-S1, blah, blah, blah. That would be really weird. S5. That'd be like a weird ass tailbone or something. But anyway, like he's telling me like the exact same thing that I already know from the GP and I already know from ChatGPT. And then I'm like, okay, so what do I do? And he's like, well, it looks like you're not bad enough for an operation. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's a good thing. He's like, yeah, because like you're not like permanently in pain. How many months a year? And I'm like, well, about 1 month a year. I get hit by bad. And he's like, yeah, no, that's not bad enough for an operation. Definitely not bad enough. And I'm like, what's bad enough? And he's like, you'd pretty much have to be like constantly in pain 24/7 every day of every month. I was like, oh, okay, well, is that something I should work towards? Like, how's this work? Because like, I want a solution. I don't want to be partially in pain type of thing. And he's like, oh no, all you got to do is lose weight and do some core exercises. And with time, if you do enough core exercises, you lose enough weight, you'll be right. And I was like, okay, so exactly what ChatGPT told me. I didn't say that, but like, that's exactly the point I was at. So I was like, so is there any other recommendations? Like, can you recommend specific exercises? Like, you're the expert. Like, based on everything I've searched so far, I've gone on YouTube, I've spoken with ChatGPT and shit. Like, maybe because he's an expert, he's going to give me, bespoke exercises specifically for my issue. He has the MRIs in front of him. He knows what the issue is. And this is what he says. And no lie of a word, okay? He goes, no, I haven't. Just go to YouTube and search for core exercises. He didn't even say, like, L5-S1 core exercise. He just said core exercise. And I was like, is there like specific ones? He's like, no, just any core exercises should be fine. Lose weight, do some core exercises. You should be fine with time. I was like, so will this like permanently sort it out? Or am I like, is this going to be a chronic issue? And then he says, oh no, it will definitely just randomly flare up at times, but you'll lower the chance by losing weight. And I was like, okay, so I guess that's it. And I was like, well, that's what ChatGPT told me. Like, it told me there's experimental shit with fucking, stem cells and stuff, but that's experimental and it's not actually used. But my wife was the one who was most pissed at this point. She was like, is there nothing you can do, doctor? Like, nothing at all? There's like no pills or anything? And he's like, no, he's an issue he's going to have to deal with for the rest of his life. So we walked out of there knowing exactly what we knew when we walked in, except we were $250 less. Yep, that's pretty much my experience. Now, I've gone to doctors in China about this, and at least they showed me specific exercises that I should do. And they did give me, like, anti-inflammatory stuff. Like, this one didn't even give me any anti-inflammatory drugs. Like, that's kind of crazy. In fact, I had to call up today to the GP and tell them specifically the drugs that I wanted. They never recommended these. These are the ones I wanted, and I know I want these because I got them in China. And then they're like, oh, okay, sure, we'll give you a prescription for that. Like, no one recommended it in Australia, but when I asked for it, they're like, oh, okay, here you go. Yeah, we'll give you a prescription for it. It's like, the fuck is going on here? So, like, I feel like I'm going to have to become a doctor myself I'm going to have to learn everything about health myself. I don't trust any motherfuckers out there. So, yeah, that's it. I know a bunch of you guys wanted some updates, and I'm sure some of you have had your own experiences, and this is from the perspective of an Australian. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Chinese system, okay? The Chinese medical system, I've never, like, gone in for an emergency, like, surgery in Australia or in China, so I can't compare those. But on a general basis where you've got issues that are, like, chronic or prescriptions or, you need MRIs, blood tests, or, you want to get scanned for all the different cancers and shit, China is so much fucking easier, okay? In Australia, you want a blood test, okay? You go to see the GP, they'll give you a thing, then you go to another location. If you're lucky, it's on the same day. Then you can do a blood test, and then you wait about a week and you can get the results. In China, okay, I got blood tests done. And this covered like everything from kidneys, the whole lot, okay? I got like a complete scan of all possible fucking cancers and shit. I got MRIs done, everything done within about 2 hours. And I had the results about an hour later. Now, sure, it costed me money straight out of pocket, but it wasn't that expensive. I can't remember exactly how much it was all up. It was like a couple of hundred RMB or something. It's not like a crazy amount of money. Maybe it is for a local, but it wasn't that crazy amount of money. I got the whole lot done. And then I had a doctor, oh yeah, and a physio also, all within that time frame, show me exactly what to do. So it's like in Australia, it would take me about a month to get all that. If I'm moving fast. In China, you can get it all done within a couple of hours. Now, this is not to compare emergency systems. I have no idea how good emergency systems are. But that's just comparing those systems. Anyway, figured I'd share that all with you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, sub to the channel. I'm assuming only subs are watching this video, and I'll see you all next video.